I want to tell a short story before I get the day going. So let's get right into it. When I was about 9 years old, my family and I we moved to an area that's what could I say here? Wasn't a town, wasn't a city. It was the suburbs, um, but it was kind of like, how do I explain this? Not in the middle of nowhere, but there was a lot of woods around, and it was very suburban, I guess. Anyway, so we move into this house, and of course, there's like woods behind the home. And me being an explorer and always wanting to explore and being obsessed with just being outdoors, I went and explored the very first day we moved in. And for me, that's like a kid in a candy store. I mean, I was literally like a kid at that time, and I had this great big woods behind my house. And with that being said, there was like this old shed, or maybe it's not like a shed, but this like to put it to put it like this, there was a business that used to exist next to this house that I lived in. Um, and I think it was like a camp. That's how like kind of far into the woods we lived. And I think it existed back in like the 70s or something like that. There was like a an abandoned in-ground pool, like an abandoned it looked like a shed, but I think that was like the maybe the snack bar or whatever. And so me being an explorer, like I said, I kind of wandered off my premises and I was just checking the area out. And so I'm looking at this stuff, and as I'm exploring and like checking out the pool area and like what this facility used to be and trying to figure it out, I find this pond, like this great big pond. And immediately I'm like drawn to it. There's like a little waterfall, there's a bridge, um, there's like these crazy looking boulders and everything around it. And really, it was just like a gleam in my eye, you know? It's like finding something shiny, just seeing this great, huge pond. And me being like an animal lover, if you will, like I love frogs and salamanders and all that kind of stuff. So immediately I'm thinking, let's go catch some frogs. Let's go catch some turtles. You know what I mean? Do stuff like that. The young boy, Boy Scout type stuff. And I was never a person that like kept things. I would release it or just admire it, I guess you could say. But I really just had that explorer sense. But anyway, so it's wintertime and I'm checking this pond out. Half of it's frozen, half of it's not. I guess because of the waterfall. Um, wasn't too cold out, but it was cold enough. So I'm, doing my thing. I'm trying to test and see how deep it is. So I'm taking like little pebbles and stuff. I'm skipping. Sorry about that light. Let me move up further. I'm skipping rocks in the pond. I'm throwing rocks in the pond. I'm getting bigger rocks to throw in the pond so I can test how deep it is. But at one end, I realized it was either super shallow or it was muddy. So I couldn't really tell the depth of it. So I'm just being a boy, you know what I mean? I'm kind of getting close to the edge. I'm using anything I can to see how deep it is. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I wanted to know why, like how deep it was. I couldn't tell you. Maybe it's just the general curiosity that I had as a kid, and I like to think that I still have that. But as I'm doing this, I'm trying to check out what else is going on. I got this great big pond here. What else is living in this pond? What else is going on with it? And it's a freaking pond. I mean, what? Fish, frogs, turtles, okay. But you have to remember, I'm a little kid, and for whatever reason, this pond was just like amazing to me. But anyway, so I'm checking it out. I'm like walking around different areas. It's very muddy still. Like I said, it was wintertime and it was on that cusp where it was cold. So you had parts that were frozen, but it wasn't cold enough to be completely frozen. So yeah, I'm just walking around it, trying to check it out from different angles, trying to see, explore it. I'm like taking sticks and any stick I can find that's long enough to kind of poke around in there, stir things up, see what's going on, see if I find anything interesting, you know what I mean? And in my mind, also, I'm thinking, like, this is a pond here. Like, what if there's like gold in here or silver? I don't know. It's just crazy, you know, a little kid just with his imagination. Anyway, I'm like, let me go over to the bridge. And also, to let you guys know, I'm by myself, I'm not with any friends. And I get on the bridge, and it's not really like a bridge per se. Like it is, but it's kind of more like a stone. It's like made out of like from what I remember, I think it was either flagstones or maybe like some sort of stone wall that had a break in the middle so that the water could flow through. So basically, it was like filtering from a creek into the pond. So I'm on the bridge, and I'm doing anything I can to kind of like peer into the water and see if I can see anything in there. You know what I mean? Again, I'm a kid, you know, I'm thinking, what if there's something immaculate in here? But anyway, I grab a stick and I'm going back to seeing how deep it is. And that's when I realized, I'm like, huh, like there's different depths here. When I was at the other side, it was pretty shallow. When I went to the middle, it was like, you know, it was decently deep, but I couldn't really tell because I didn't have a stick long enough. But when I got on the bridge, I found a stick that was probably a good 10 feet long. I'm not even kidding. It just happened to be there. And it was a pretty thick stick from what I remember, I think. But anyway, I grabbed this thing and I'm poking around in there. I'm in the deepest part now. At least I assume that I'm at the deepest part. And again, I'm kind of like flipping things around, like stirring stuff around. And then I just think to myself, I'm like, let me see how deep this is. We're going to take this entire stick and we're going to go as far as we can. Well, I made a mistake when doing this. I stepped really close to the edge. I leaned forward. I took the stick and I just went all the way down. And I'm leaning and leaning. And then I just fall right into the water. Like face first into the water. It's freezing. Shock initially hits me. It doesn't even take a second. Like probably what it felt like 3 seconds, which is actually a long time when you fall into a pond like that in the wintertime. And as I come up, I mean, I was completely submerged into the water. I mean, face first, dove into the water. So I fling up, and I remember trying to like grab and get a grasp. The wall was right here. So I had leverage to grab it and pull myself up. But again, it's wintertime. There's algae. I'm slipping. I feel slimy, like just sticks and weeds and leaves and whatever is going on. And also the thought of, I can't really see what's in the water. So like at the same time, panic set in, not just because I fell in and it was cold, but because I was thinking something's going to get me. And it's a pond, but again, I'm like 9. And I just had that like overwhelming fear that something was going to happen. So I'm like kind of fighting my way. Like I'm not drowning, but I'm like, like splashing the water around. And then I'm like, dude, idiot, grab the wall and push yourself up. So that's what I did. I grabbed the wall and I pushed myself up out of it. And this is pretty much the end of it, guys. But once I got out, of course, I was soaking wet and it was freezing out. But I guess the whole reason why I'm telling you this is, well, for one, for me, that was a pretty, for lack of better words, insane situation, being how young I was. But also, it's like the stupidity in it. But really, I guess the moral here is, you know, don't second or don't assume things, you know, because I assume that, oh, it's not. There's no way it's deeper than this stick. Like there's no way that I'm gonna fall in. Like that's not gonna happen. And like the worst thing happened, you know? And it could have been worse. I mean, if the lake was completely frozen over and I had breaking through the ice, like who knows what would have happened. But I pulled myself out of it. I had to walk all the way home, filled with water. I mean, my boots, my hoodie, my hat, everything just completely filled with water. Had to walk all the way through the woods back to my house. And it was probably a good 10-minute walk from where I was. But yeah, you know, don't take things for granted. Not really, you know, like the whole premise here, but really it's don't assume things. And yeah, on that day, I assumed that this pond wasn't that deep and that I was going to be able to somehow check the depth of a pond. Like, what? You know, that's kids for you, though. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just was out exploring. I wanted to see how deep it was. I thought I could do that, and I paid the consequences. I fell in head first. Now, imagine doing that. I want to say it was like January when this happened. So, one of the coldest months. I don't know where you live, but in Pennsylvania, it's like one of the coldest months. January, February. Yeah. So, I learned my lesson on that. I never underestimated water for one. And if I went to any pond, creek, lake, I was definitely cautious about it. Not to the point where I let that get in the way of fun, but I was definitely like, I'm not going to do that again. So I learned my lesson. But I don't know. It makes for a funny story. Definitely better if you guys were all there to witness it. Of course. If I had that on videotape, that would have been amazing. But it's just one of those stories that I finally remember, you know? I mean, how could you forget that? I mean, I literally fell head first into the water. I will say this, though. I do remember the stick breaking, and that's why I fell in. But still, I could have done it from a safe distance. I mean, I was like rocked forward with the stick going down into the water to see how deep it was. Yeah. So yeah, it's safe to say that I learned my lesson on that. But yeah, that's my story. Just wanted to tell it really quickly. Yeah. Could have made it quicker, but you know, I wanted to kind of describe the scenario. All right, guys. Well, that's it. I'll see you guys later. All right?